Brattleboro Planning Commission is hereby called to order. For January 6th, 2020. Are there any announcements?
Nope.
No.
For me.
Public comments? No. Hearing none. Approval of the minutes of December 18th. The minutes are in the folder. Did everybody get a chance to look them over?
Now, so in the survey, talking about under the downtown design plan survey results, the last sentence under A, survey results says, negative perception in this case is important to understand, and it's showing
There's a grammatical error.
behavior
It's supposed to be activity.
and acidity. Okay.
Yes, I will make that
I
change.
was like, what?
Oh, okay.
There's a couple names too misspelled. If while we're on it, isn't his name?
That's why we do these kind of
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah, just for typos, right?
What happens if I just fix the things in
The drive.
the drive? I shouldn't be able to, right?
No, it's fine to do that, but I have my own end that we gotta
Okay.
change things.
Okay.
And, yeah. It's
So,
the whole process.
The new
the entire
sustainability
process.
coordinator's last name is
Dodson.
Oh, CT? Yep. Oh, that was Dodson. Okay.
Wait,
Great.
what's their full name?
Yep, Stephen Dodson.
Dodson.
Oh,
I thought it was
Dotson.
Dotson.
Yeah.
D-O-T-S-O-N.
I got the spelling from someone else, so I could, let me
Or
double
maybe
check.
it's D-O-D-S-O-N, I don't know. But you have me under G here is F-E-E-C. Which is,
Which
I'm
one?
curious,
Where?
is that F-R-A-T or?
G.
Where?
G.
Oh, yes,
I'm sorry, Felicity.
That should be
Yeah.
F-R-A-T, right?
Yep, that should be. Adrian
We
Elsewhere.
went with the standard is that everybody, instead of being called Ms. and
We do the
or
E dot,
Mr., it's
right?
just first initial last name.
Yes. Is there any other misspellings you can see?
And Lewing?
Yeah.
Email Keith stated that the project was focused attention on land and Lewing at potential third.
What, under what?
Same spelling.
Same spot, just like 2 lines down.
Oh.
Oh, yep, looking. Thank you.
Welcome, Josh.
Is there a calendar shaped you sheet?
She says 3 events planned in June. Is there a
Are you here for the
calendar, or
meeting?
is that-
Are you planning to
Yes.
discuss the power station?
We are, we are,
Yeah.
yep.
Yes, then I am here.
Great.
Oh, good,
Welcome.
welcome. I'm sorry, you missed the public comment section, but
Okay.
when we get to the item on the agenda,
Yep.
we'll absolutely welcome the
Thank
public
you.
comment.
You guys been here before?
We've been here,
We
yeah.
st- We
Couple
started,
minutes.
At what time? 6.
6, we just started.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just
started.
looking.
Oh, I thought you
No,
meant
we're-
started.
no, I opened the meeting,
Like, how late?
there were no announcements, there were no public at that point, and
Okay.
now we're reviewing the minutes.
I see, okay, you're just
We
moving
have
fast.
plenty,
I see
yes,
what's going
plenty
on.
of time, Josh.
Yeah.
So what was your thing? June, I should
Josh,
have
did you copy the
dates.
minutes or you got it?
The waterways through
Okay, good,
community.
thank you.
They're Sundays, they're the first Sundays in July.
It says June in the meeting notes.
Oh, sorry, the first
June.
in June, for the Sundays in June. So if you go to your calendar, which I'm doing, so you don't need to, it is June 7th, June 14th, and June 21st.
But is that public anywhere?
It's Felicity and.
She's gonna make it public soon.
And other people are organizing. some
I
big
wanna
events in
come.
West
I'm-
Bradford.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I
yeah.
wanna
Well,
be there.
you're a participant.
Yeah, so that's the other reason why it'd be good to know.
Right, yeah, those are the dates, and she was supposed to say that, and so can the minutes reflect that? Did she not say that?
Minutes reflect the exact
June
dates?
7th,
The dates,
14th,
7th,
and 21st.
14th.
Sure. I'll make a note.
That way that they're there. I'm pretty sure she did say that, because she's been talking about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have notes, like-
dates.
Yeah, I'll get those on there. Or at least the tentative dates.
Yeah, no, I think they're set. I mean,
All right,
yeah, they're-
perfect.
Those are the dates. Okay, are we okay with the minutes? Motion to
I'll make
approve
a motion to approve the minutes
with
December
the
18th.
corrections.
with the
Yeah, corrections.
typo corrections.
Okay, all those in favor?
Do we get a second?
Oh
No,
my God,
you
yeah,
need a
probably
second.
we need a second.
Okay, thanks.
There's a second, and all in favor?
Except do I abstain from here? Doesn't matter.
I wasn't there either. So I think we should just,
Okay, they look good,
I
yeah,
think we
we're all
can
in.
approve even if we weren't there.
Can you?
Yes, I think we can,
We have
but
before.
even though it seems a little wacky.
Yeah, I
Does
think
seem
I
a
had
little
heard that.
wacky.
I don't know though. have to
No,
look
I
at the
remember
rules.
we actually had to get, but did we have a quorum during the meeting? Because if we didn't have a quorum during the meeting. we
I'll tell you
never
this,
would be able
from
to approve
past
them.
Conservation Commission meetings, we had to wait to approve minutes, because I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's what I
happens.
remember we had to, yeah,
So we could hold it to the next meeting.
except for that I don't know that we had a quorum at that
You had
meeting.
4 people.
Last
So it's
meeting?
at the
Yeah.
last meeting, Felicity,
Oh,
Tom,
Prudence.
Josh, and Prudence.
Yeah, Prudence.
Oh, okay, so we did, so
Yes.
we just have to wait for prudence. Okay.
Okay.
Andrew, the
sorry.
other thing that's
Have
just
a number?
wacky is when the meetings are, when the meeting notes are getting pulled into Google, it's pulling in like the Brattleboro planning, it's pulling in like the letterhead detail.
Sure, I'll let Sue, she's the one that uploads this stuff, but I'll make a note.
It doesn't open it as a PDF from
Oh,
Google
so
Drive?
It
this is-
does.
This is what I got.
Oh, yeah,
This
okay,
is
never mind.
small
I opened it
potatoes.
as
Alright.
a, as
You opened
a
it as a document.
Google
Yeah,
thing.
no problem.
Never mind, my problem, just ignore it.
All right, so, sorry, we need now a motion to table the approval of the minutes.
I move at the table.
Second?
I'll set.
Great.
I can vote for
All
that.
those all those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Aye.
Aye.
Great, all right, we're tabling the minutes to next meeting. All right. Petition for Green Mountain Power for a certificate of public good. Pursuant to 30 VSA 248, authorizing the rebuild of the North Brattleboro substation. Andrew, are you going to give us an overview
Yeah,
of the
sure.
CPG process? Great.
So every time some sort of telecommunication facility is being
You
planned.
want to just introduce yourself to the public so they know who you
Sure.
are?
I'm Andrew Gravinsky, I'm the planning technician for the town of Brattleboro's Planning Services Department. So, as I was saying, every time some sort of company proposes to build a telecommunications facility, there's something called a certificate of public good process, which is a 45-day process, and the Public Utilities Commission reviews these proposals, and they're the ones who make the final decision. But local governments do have an opportunity to give comments, but that's it. So, again, this is the definition I got from the website for the Public Utility Commission. A certificate of public good, CPG, is a document issued by the Public Utility Commission under 30 VSA 231, which authorizes a company to own or operate a telecommunications business in Vermont. A company wishing to provide telecommunications services in Vermont must first obtain a CPG from the Public Utility Commission. The Commission issues CPGs only upon findings that the operation of the telecommunications business will serve the general good of the state. Basic overview of what it is. So Green Mountain Power is proposing to rebuild the North Brattleboro substation at 387 Putney Road. Staff has reviewed this project. Have you all had an opportunity to look over the letter and the site plans?
No, could I have a minute to do that?
Sure.
And also, this is an electric substation, it doesn't have anything to do with telecommunications. So, is that just
Yeah,
a weird?
It's weird, but they still have to go through the same process.
Okay.
If you want a more specific answer, I can get back to you. But
That's
I
fine.
was confused at first, but
They're not, so there's nothing
It's fine,
hidden
it's
in
still
here
gonna
that
fall under the
was
jurisdiction.
no, it still falls under the
related.
jurisdiction of the Public
Okay.
Utility Commission, because it is a public utility.
So I'm confused. Is this the thing from 2016?
No, so that is an example of a letter that
that's
Rod, the former director, wrote regarding kind of like how we give our input. So staff has reviewed it, and we did find some areas where we felt like our regulations, or at least our in the town plans, weren't being reflected in the development. So we wanted to have an opportunity to at least comment and say, we recommend this according to our land use regulations.
It kind of seems like we had it voted, because it doesn't look like it came in the email. Whatever you were just offering up to. to see.
The site plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I have.
Because this, I'm so,
Okay, so in the last couple of pages are the site plans. Okay, here you go.
Does anybody else need a copy? I just gave this.
Yeah, the
This
last
is the
3
one
pages,
on,
I have the site plan,
This
4
is the one on
pages.
Putney Road by the Marina Restaurant, right, where there was
Yes,
a
right
fire
there
as a
was- there was
result.
a
Exactly, there's a fire back in October, and that's kind of what spurred this, all right, we gotta rebuild it. All right.
So it's fairly significant
It is,
what they're
completely rebuilt.
proposing to do.
Yeah.
One, are we into just discussion?
Yeah.
Well, do we want to give everybody a minute to just review? Yeah, did you want?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
In
let's.
silence?
In silence.
Okay,
Yes,
all
Tom, in silence.
Okay.
And if you have questions, I can try to.
Sorry.
answer
Take out with my homework.
After that.
I did my homework.
This is in-
That's okay? Yeah.
So for clarification, that email with the attachment that was signed David Gardner's name from 2016, that has nothing to do with.
Sue, I think, can include that just to show you an example of what previously has been done in,
Gotcha.
in town.
Yeah.
Completely
Yeah,
unrelated.
no, this has
Yeah.
nothing to do with
Nothing.
that job.
Yeah, right. But I went through the same process.
Yeah.
It was just, I asked Sue to put that in there as an example of what the planning commission does
Yeah.
when it gets this kind of thing.
Gotcha. Cool.
I think there's maybe some relevance in the sense of context, because it's with the same applicants. And from looking at Google Street View, it doesn't seem like they did any of the recommendations that we offered
On the south.
on the south
So
side.
on the south one.
Is that
Yeah.
Burnham, down by Burnham?
Yeah, like the
Because there's definitely no like shrubbery.
yeah, there's no shrubbery, there's no terracing, there's
Yeah.
no riprap added. Not that I necessarily think that would look better, but maybe it'd be better for erosion and stormwater control and.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have other copies too, so you can keep
Yeah.
that. I got it. Yeah, feel free to take one.
I mean, I have one in the.
But it's all phrased like, you know, we suggest, we recommend, because that's all that we can do.
That's
right?
exactly, yep.
But they didn't seem to do any of it.
So are you suggesting that we should ask them? Are we into talking now? Kevin?
Yeah, go
Can I
for
just-
it, you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, well, can I have
thanks.
one more minute? Just
Oh,
because
yeah,
I feel,
one more minute,
I
sure.
feel like I'm way off subject now, so let me.
It looks like there's a couple points of entry. So we have this preview time where we can make recommendations to the petitioner. So that's directly to Green Mountain Power saying, we would like you to do this. Then, once the petition is filed with the commission, we can actually then comment on it, which is maybe more formal. And I don't know last time around whether we did both of those things.
Okay. So that's something to find out.
Because making recommendations to the commission is a different act than making recommendations to Green Mountain Power. Green Mountain Power can take it or leave it. If you're commenting to the commission, depending on the utility commission, there may be, they may value it in a different way.
So how do we want to go about discussing this?
I'm interested to hear two things. I'm interested to hear, it sounded like the staff had thoughts, you were saying on if they were, if there were things from the, the hunting materials that weren't being taken into account that you recommended.
Yeah,
you would consider. I also would like to hear the public
Land use
comment.
regulations, yeah.
Do we want to?
Well, who knows the most about this? And do you, Felicity?
No, I mean, I've read the same thing you've
Yeah.
read. Do we want to get the public comment?
Yeah.
With that?
Yeah.
Do you guys want
We
to?
really just came because we live next door to the power station.
Oh,
And
okay.
we thought that Green Mountain Power was going to be here doing this presentation, and we wanted them to know that we were still paying attention. We actually did meet with 2 engineers from Green Mountain Power about 2 weeks before the fire, because I had heard that they were planning to do this, and they met with us and told us about what they were planning. But I just thought that if they were going to be here, we wanted to let them know that we were still paying attention to the project.
Unfortunately, they are not. I called them today asking if they were indeed coming, and they said no. So that must have been a miscommunication with the newspaper.
Do you have anything in particular that you're concerned about, that we should be concerned about?
Lighting is one of our, they said they're planning to put in new lighting. We're curious how bright and how much, and whether it'll be pointing in our direction or not. That's a big concern. They did say that it's going to be a much larger print, much larger area, but it's moving away from us, not towards us. So our biggest concern, I think, is the lighting situation.
Are you abutting, you're the one abutting most
They're the one
directly?
abutting property,
See our
yes.
house on one of the maps, I think.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay.
So what other concerns do you have? Like, is there any?
Well, we asked them about noise, and they said that this should be quieter than the old one, so that was nice to hear. Our biggest concern, I think, was that they were going to come towards us, which they don't plan to, so. Other than lighting, not too much we're worried about, really.
Thank you.
I just want them to know that we're still paying attention.
I have a question for you. What's the current landscape screening like between you and the?
It's just, there's some shrubs and some trees, but there's not really anything. I did actually ask them in an email if they could put up some sort of temporary fencing, at least during the construction. And they did say they were willing to put up a temporary fence during construction to block the noise.
Because we have this section in the land use regs, section 314, buffers and screening,
I
which is
am loving
like,
you right now. You are like the best planning commissioner right now.
which is pretty in detail, and it even has some wording about opaque fencing and walls being required, and like the plants, if the infrastructure is more than 8 feet tall, it must be screened with a type E buffer, which includes, all these different plants, and half of them have to be evergreens, so.
There's
It's a section to consider as they redo this. Even though they're not necessarily beholden to these regs.
What are the lights like at night right now?
Currently, they don't have any lights on it at night. It's not lit up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember being lit up.
No, so now that it says they're planning to put in new lighting, I'm curious as to what that's going to be.
So is your house up, like is there a little bit of a hill? Your
Yes.
house is just up a little
We're
bit?
just above it.
Yeah.
And when you say a fence during construction, is it because there's no fence there right now, or is there a
There's
fence?
no fence between us. There's a chain link fence, right? But
There's a chain link fence that goes around the substation, but is there another fence? That's the one fence? Okay.
Well, there is, yeah.
And I think that's what they're proposing.
Yeah, I told us construction's going to take months, so.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
it's-
the temporary fence they're going to put up for the construction.
Well, maybe we can reinforce that in the letter, Andrew. That's true.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and have they actually consulted our zoning requirements for the design?
It's
I'm
not
unaware, but from, at least from our input, from what we've reviewed, no.
Does anybody
Doesn't
know
look
this TJ Boyle? The person who's done the design plan?
No.
TJ Boyle
Burlington,
Associates
right?
LLC, landscape architect,
Where are they from? They're
Burlington.
Burlington, yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, then it's interesting too, because the plants that they propose to add, those dark ones,
Mhm.
are all on the north side, but on the west side that faces the road, And those are all cedars too, which are
Right,
evergreen.
and so we would have them, they need to put every 30 feet.
Yeah, I mean, there's
in, put
existing
plants there.
vegetation there,
Mhm.
but it's just like little scrappy deciduous, shrubs.
Yeah. So do you want to articulate the points that we've got in the draft letter right now?
Sure. So the topics that we wanted them to really consider included landscaping, erosion control, stormwater management, and lighting. I guess to begin with landscaping, the part of the property, the front of the property abutting Putney Road, in new development and redevelopment, there's a requirement for street trees. So we put that in there. Since there's power lines, it would be small trees every 30 feet. And then erosion control, we have no erosion control plan submitted, so we want to make sure that that's taken into consideration during construction, especially with there being a confluence of two rivers right there, and that there are some slopes on the property. Kind of then going to stormwater management, again, we don't really see any stormwater measures being taken into consideration, and that is something that we would like to be seeing, at least some sort of LID, low impact development principles, bioretention facility, bioswale, rain garden, infiltration trench, or any other kind of stormwater addition that could really help collect that runoff, especially again with the rivers being right there. And then lighting, we at least noticed, it doesn't exactly say what the kind of lighting is, but it looks like it's floodlights from our interpretation, and those really aren't allowed in our zoning. So they're not even angled down, which they should be, so we recommend them to be fully shielded and angled no higher than 45 degrees. Yeah.
So what was their intention for the lights then? Like was it for this?
Probably cameras, right?
Yeah,
So it's always lit.
potentially for it's always lit for security reasons, maybe.
Yard lighting, security camera?
Yeah.
Andrew,
Two of them.
did we have that letter in our municipal?
No, so it's not a complete letter.
Oh, okay.
So that's more, it's just more that I'm just kind of the base, and then once I get everyone's comments, we'll add that
Oh, okay.
to it.
How much of the property is theirs? And, because there's a big chunk of that property that's just kind of gravel dirt, Oh.
Well, on the,
Mhm.
I'm not sure, but
This is,
Yeah.
I'm showing from maps online.
I have another comment regarding the landscaping. I just forgot to say something. with
Yeah,
this.
yeah, sure.
The driveway or the.
Yeah.
So one more thing from the draft letter.
So at the north, I think it's the north. If you're on one of the north ends of the property, there's actually a memorial. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So we also recommended that some of the landscaping reflect that memorial that's currently there. It will complement it. Yeah.
Is there?
Well, so part of what I'm wondering is in the landscaping plan in terms of like bioretention, does that gravel parking area need to be that big, and how might they improve the whole lot? And that, it looks like they didn't include that at all. Even though they're the property owner there, they didn't include that at all in their plans.
No, it's just called gravel access.
Yeah.
Is the monument's not on there now.
So the monument it's
Yeah,
right
it's
over
right here.
That's town land, right? There's a.
I believe.
Yeah.
I can get back to you exactly on where if it's town or not.
Yeah, there's this pathway that leads down
Uh-huh.
underneath the bridge. I don't know if the town has it for like fishing access or quasi park or something, but I would just hope that, it looks like the town has like a segment that overlaps the access to the gravel thing, but I would just hope that this substation somehow doesn't lead to, the redo of it doesn't lead to some gate that prevents access.
Yeah, I
For the
see that
public.
right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, existing monument, it's on the other, this plan right here, addresses
Right,
the
and
property.
is this a property line, this dotted line here?
There's a bunch of weird dotted lines.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
weird
no.
No, I believe the area that blurry on this map at least is, because this is an easement right here clearly.
What do you mean?
Right here, this part, if you look at this is an easement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I'm wondering about.
Oh,
Yeah,
those
like-
lines.
So this
Let me take a quick
goes.
look.
I think those are the electric.
Oh.
Possibly.
Well, where are the property
Yes,
lines?
They're not
overhead
on
lines,
any of
existing,
these.
Those
Yeah.
are the
This is,
lines.
you can pass that to Andrew.
See, that's
Here's
what's
one.
so there's the property line,
Yep,
The one north is town line.
yep.
there.
And then you can see the easement in there
So
too.
it would be, basically the property line would be like that,
Yep.
and then over like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, let's ask this, if they could make that, do something better with that gravel
Okay.
while we're at it.
Yeah, and can you ask them to update the plans showing their property line?
Can we also get an explanation for lights? Why
Mhm.
are there lights?
And the type of lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
got it.
why is that necessary all of a sudden?
And given,
Tell them never to use, no.
given that they didn't pay any attention the last time we did this, I would suggest that we prepare ourselves to go to the commission if they don't pay any attention.
No, I would actually put that in the letter, like put a section in the letter saying, you came to Brattleboro in 2016 and came to the planning commission, and the planning commission made these recommendations. None of those occurred, you know, and maybe even cite the letter to make it clear to them that we didn't just space out and forget, and so that we expect a different kind of response this time around.
We don't have fun writing letters as our only hobby.
Sorry,
Well,
Andrew, I'm being strident. It's not with you.
Very important.
And maybe we can give them, you know, reference to the fact that we have a sustainability coordinator now, and if they need some assistance in making their work more sustainable, they certainly can avail themselves to our resources. Although they ought to have one of their
And
own.
then that's when we never heard from GMP again.
Yeah. And who's the person at GMP who's the project manager for this?
Yeah, his name is John Fisk.
He's the
And
one.
I talked to him today and I
the
told him
leader
that you'd be
engineer.
getting our contact.
John Fisk?
Yep. And I talked about how Rob is setting this meeting tonight and that we'll be submitting comments.
Tell him to show up next time.
Yeah, and are they gonna come next time? I mean, do we have it, is this gonna be on our agenda again for the February meeting?
Well,
When it's the
no,
formal
we
submission?
need to submit a letter to them by January 21st.
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
So,
so
We
we're
should go ahead and.
Okay, so we
Yes.
should
Yeah.
submit this
Yes.
letter, and
Yeah,
then,
oh, yeah.
and then will they come back to us?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's something I'll talk, I'll consult with Sue about.
Okay. I mean, we don't, I guess we don't, it would be
It-
nice if
you
they
know,
would see you guys.
You know, the commission does have the power to hold a special meeting if that, if you wanted to do that.
A special meeting with GMP actually here.
Just on a specific topic and that
We
could
can't
be it.
require them to come. but
We can't require them to come, but you can
just-
have another meeting, a special meeting that's other than our traditional meeting.
well, so one other thing maybe to put
Sure.
in the letter, because we don't want to hold up the timeline. So we get this letter to them by January 21st. Can you request that they send us their revised plans? Like updated, clarified, revised plans showing our recommendations?
Mhm.
So that we have those. And then I guess kind of a note for you and Sue to track the commission process
Mhm.
and because that should come up for comment once the petition is filed. And then, I forget how. Sorry, I'm just reading the commission
No
rule.
worries.
So it says, as stated in Commission Rule 5.402A2, municipal bodies and local and regional planning commissions also have the opportunity to provide revised recommendations within 45 days of the date on which the petitioner has filed a petition with the commission, if the petition contains new or more detailed information that was not previously included in the petitioner's filing with the municipal and regional planning commissions. So the cycle in there would be then, like, we're writing a letter with recommendations. We
To
would
GMP.
like, yeah, we
Yep.
would like to see new plans. It looks like there's another opportunity then to provide revised recommendations based on those new plans, if we have
Yeah,
additional thoughts.
I think the way I interpret it at least is that we would skip, if they did make revisions, we'd get them back, have a chance to review again. And then at that point, it's in the commission.
Yeah, so it looks like it's within, we have to do that within 45 days of the date on which they file the petition with the
Yeah.
commission.
Mhm.
But then I don't know, I mean, maybe that's our only kind of public comment opportunity.
Are they required to respond to our letter?
I don't know. I mean, in the end, like I said, they have all the control.
So we could send them a letter by January 21st and they could just ignore us.
I guess theoretically, you would hope not.
GMP percent.
Yeah, there's possible news.
I mean, I wasn't here last week, I wasn't sure. if you heard back.
Well, I guess that was my question, is that if they do, then what do we do? If we are concerned that they actually make these, do the things that we're recommending, because they're within our guidelines, the statutes that we've passed.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things there. One is if they proceed with a plan that is in violation of our zoning, like there would be a zoning enforcement process against them.
They can still do it, our zoning
They're
doesn't,
exempt.
they're exempt, these are just recommendations.
They're exempt from our zoning?
Yes.
It's state law, right?
It's state law, yep.
Hmm.
Remember we were talking about this?
Right.
It was,
That's why they go to
Early
They
2000s.
report just to the state agency.
yeah.
And we just chime in to the state agency.
There used to be local control.
But-
Until the state thought it would be easier, they just had all this.
Given,
Okay, so then in that case, you publicly shame them. And then one of the things about GMP is they're a B Corp. So their whole shtick is supposed to be that they're sustainable and they engage with the community. So, I mean, whatever, we don't have to cross that bridge. But,
In the letter.
and then the other thing is the recommendations to the commission. So it's having us as a body try to influence the commission in terms of how they rule on the, right?
Mhm.
And is there an attachment of our zoning ordinances going in this?
We will
letter?
attach them, yep.
It's a nice friendly reminder.
so going forward, so we draft the letter, you'll send it around to us before you send it off,
Mhm.
Andrew?
And we can't reply all.
When we can't, everybody remember, you can't reply all, right? And then we ask them to submit, to revise and resubmit as a courtesy.
Send us updated plans.
And then presumably they either do or they don't. You guys on the staff keep us abreast of when it goes to the commission, and then we decide at that point whether or not we go to the commission. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's not an action, right? That was just a plan, so we don't have to.
It's discussion.
Yeah, and did other concerns or thoughts that you guys have before we move on? Okay.
Good.
Well, thanks for coming
Yeah.
and giving your input. Yeah, of course.
Feel free to stay or leave.
Yeah.
Well, the next talk's pretty interesting.
Okay, so the next item is discussion of zoning for Great Neighborhoods memo. Pass it over to you there, Andy.
Yeah, so I'm guessing Sue gave you some past updates regarding the zoning for great neighborhoods, which was put on by the state, the Department of Commerce and Community Development, and Congress for New Urbanism, which is a nationwide body. Has everyone here heard of the CNU?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That she mentioned it.
So the Congress for New Urbanism is a body. I don't think they're a nonprofit, but they're made up of planners, architects, urban designers, and they basically they're not even really a consulting firm, but they do work regarding just promoting what new urbanism is. And if you don't know what new urbanism is, it's basically the traditional neighborhoods, walkability, the 5-minute walk kind of thing, to schools, services like grocery stores, hospital, shopping. I think just like, a lot of traditional New England areas. It's kind of like, going back to the roots kind of thing. Compact development, density, infill development. That's really what CNU is all about. So they did a workshop with the Department of Commerce and Community Development, looking at 6 communities in Vermont. Brattleboro was one of them. And they gave some recommendations how we can change our, basically our current bylaws to incorporate more allowance of, for better housing opportunities.
So I'm sorry, I missed, did they come to us or did we go to them?
Sue went to Montpelier and she gave a presentation.
So this is all focusing on housing?
Yep.
This document?
Yep. Looking specifically at density.
So, I apologize, my computer is, or the internet's not working all of a sudden. Do you have a copy?
Sure.
Or no, I don't want to take yours.
Is there only the one copy?
I only have this, is it,
I guess there is only one copy.
okay, it's all good.
Do you want to look on the page?
Sorry,
Maybe-
Josh.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, no, it
Maybe my
is,
computer
it
will
is
serve.
coming in the morning.
Here,
Too
at
bad.
the top, you can feel free to scroll down.
So, some of you were here in 2015 when the town redid some of the regulations. You know, we did incorporate some form-based code techniques, but CNU found some areas where we could potentially make changes. So I guess starting with the recommendations, minimum lot sizes.
Should we just take these one at a time?
Yeah, I think we should just take them one at a
Sure.
time, and I think the point is to just sort of generally discuss.
Yeah.
Um,
Not making any decisions.
Not, yeah, not making any decisions.
Yep.
yeah.
For them.
Exactly. Yeah, so starting with minimum lot sizes.
Lot size.
They found that some zoning districts have minimum lot sizes that are larger than necessary.
You don't say. You don't say. Write that down, yeah.
So I think the idea here is that these are recommend, as we go forward and review our zoning regulations, which we need to do because we've been putting it off and putting it off, so they will have to come back. And then we're gonna put them all in as a package to the select board. So we should take these into consideration as we review our zoning. So that's the context.
So I'm just doing converting 6,000 square feet, like how big is that? So it's like less than a quarter of an acre.
Yep.
Okay, but still probably pretty big.
I feel like we did discuss and amend some zoning things in the last few months or in the last year. Is this new, like brand new information we're getting?
Yeah, we've
as
gone
of
this in the
any
last couple of
amendment?
weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did it based upon our regs in the books, so not necessarily taking into consideration the things we've talked about that are just still in draft form.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is most of what we've done, because we haven't actually passed anything on to the select board, I don't think. Any of those things we've been talking about for the past year. Well, we should. I think, yes, but, yeah.
Yeah, so.
So minimum, any comments on minimum lot size? Seems straightforward.
What is, they're saying they're recommending 6,000 square feet. What is our?
No.
No,
They're
they're
saying
recommending
6,000 square feet. is too
Smaller
big,
than
yeah.
6.
Okay.
And they're recommending that just in the neighborhood center and the village center
I think those were just examples. I
Or is
think.
that
It's just for
examples?
instance,
Okay.
I think it's only the urban center that has less than that, and it's at 2,000.
Yeah.
Or at minimum lot size 2,000.
And I think we weren't going to really be looking at, I think we feel that in the urban center, that's already pretty good.
And
That's small enough.
Yeah, small enough. It's
Yeah.
really like the mixed use, neighborhood center, village center,
Yeah.
even potentially residential neighborhood.
Yeah, those are all 6,000, or they are.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if there's any advantage to preventing lots from being broken up, subdivided into too small? Like, I don't know, I'm just throwing a guess here. Do any communities find that when that happens, that it limits the ability for bigger projects to happen? Because all the lots have gotten divided up, long-term down the line? I mean, lots can always be bought and then rejoined together, so there's not.
I mean, I think it does to what purpose, so if you're thinking about, and I don't think they're proposing this, but if you're thinking about like the rural lot areas, then the highest use of those is something that's more in keeping with like Vermont's agrarian, past. If you're thinking about some of the more concentrated housing areas, then is the highest purpose housing, and then when you're thinking about other areas where they're for business use, I'm thinking about the highest purpose there. So I think my gut feeling is, and I'm not sure about the proposal, what my gut feeling is, it's going to depend on what the intended best use of that zoning area is. And, it's like if you ask me about rural, I might be like, you probably want to try to keep, farming being part of the purpose there. But if you ask me about like the urban center, that's a different thing.
Right, yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't know, at first glance, I don't see why, if there seems to be a need or demand for smaller lots and it will house people more densely and that's what we want, push it as low as it will go.
I would also...
But there's probably some way that could backfire.
Yeah, I guess I'm sort of confused about that, and maybe it's just my ignorance of the notion of, well, if we want denser housing, then we want larger lots that have apartment buildings on them.
That's one
Not
way,
necessarily, if you look at infill housing,
Tiny houses.
if you look at infill housing, they can use tiny lots, depending on the type of housing.
Okay.
Yes, apartments is one kind of housing, but if you look at on the FAR system, floor area ratio, you can, depending on the lot, you can get like a skyscraper. This is obviously doesn't
There are
Brattleboro.
extreme examples in
Yeah.
Japan
Yeah.
where it's, everybody wants to live near Tokyo. But
Right, and it's
there's
just
no
dense,
You'll see these
yeah.
houses that are built, they've got a term for it, I can't remember, but
I
they're
know what
like
you're talking
these
about.
really weird
Yeah.
shaped houses because somebody somehow got the ability to like chop the lot
Yep.
down to look like this jigsaw puzzle, and the house is just eating the whole jigsaw puzzle.
And I guess one comparison is like my
That's
neighborhood
extreme, but,
around
you know,
Clark
that's how
Street
far it can go.
to like say Wantagh Street.
Mhm.
Those are all single family dwellings, but those lots are probably a third of an acre, whereas the ones in my neighborhood are like 4,000 square feet instead of 15 or 13. So.
Yeah, and they only referenced the village center and the neighborhood center, which is really two specific areas. It's like West Brattleboro Village, and then it's that beginning part of Putney Road.
But those are just for instance, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
different.
so the recommendation could be anywhere.
Yeah, just considering smaller.
Oh,
lots.
Well,
It's because it says
Within
some
the scope
zoning,
of,
some
like,
zoning
urbanism.
districts establish minimum lot sizes that are larger than necessary.
So I think I'm trying to picture 6,000 square feet, I think is about an eighth of an acre, right?
Isn't that what you just found?
0.13 of an acre.
Just
It's like a tenth, it's
less
a
than a
tenth.
quarter.
of
An acre's
That's
Yeah.
about how
42.
big my lot is on Elliott Street, 6,000 and change. So for reference, and all the lots on my street are around that. So if you picture like Elliott Street, that's a 6,000 square foot lot about.
It seems like it's worth thinking about more. I would love it if, when we've got stuff like this, we need examples to look at. It would be really useful to have a visual, like how big is 6,000 square feet? What can you put on it?
Well, if you think of like your house, your footprint of your house, I don't know how big your house is, but.
Not 6,000.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a house is
Yeah,
6,000
no, it's a
square feet.
huge-
That's
huge house.
Yeah. So.
But if we're, I mean, I guess it also depends upon where you are. I mean, if we're talking about, do we want, I mean, garden space? Do we want green space? Do we want spaces where the people potentially could grow some of their own food or their neighbors?
Kids can play.
Where kids can play,
Sort
where
of makes
animals
sense.
can be, there can be pollinator
Yeah,
gardens and
but
various
it's a
other sorts of
minimum
things.
lot size, it's
Yeah.
not a maximum lot. So
Right.
you could move it down to 2,000 or 3,000 square feet for probably many of the neighborhoods. And then, partly there's also the process of actually needing to subdivide a lot, like if you were to make it smaller. And I don't think, it's,
If you made and again, I don't know how I feel about this, I have to think about it, but if you made lot sizes smaller in some neighborhoods, I think you would also want to consider what the setbacks are and the footprints, because
Right.
that might also address some of the things about green space. If you're talking about in a particular neighborhood, like say residential, and you said you could have a smaller lot size, then you would still have setbacks and you would still have footprints. So if you made your lot really tiny, it might only be a tiny house that's going to fit on there. I don't,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not advocating for this, I'm just trying to picture the whole thing all working together.
And when we worked on the zoning, we did do, the planning staff did an analysis in the neighborhoods of lot sizes. So it may actually be like, for instance, if most of the lot sizes now are 6,000 feet, and the idea is you were thinking of reducing that, how are you gonna reduce it where you're not bifurcating? You know what I mean? It's like you can only
You're not
split
cutting
one
somebody's house.
6,000 square foot lot into two 3,000 square foot lots. So you can't, you can't make it'd be 4,000 as the minimum because you wouldn't be able to. So there's a question there in terms of the reality of the lot sizes and if they were smaller, what that smaller might be, like what it might actually be able to be divided up to be.
And how would you access it
Access, yeah,
once they're
thought about
divided?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think the simplest thing would just be to divide 6,000 by 2, which is 3,000, if we're to bring it down. Just cut it in half.
But cut it in half, but then you have to do right-of-ways.
Yeah, but that's why if we're just dividing it in half, the right-of-way is a little bit more straightforward.
Right.
Instead of like 1,500 square feet, and all of a sudden we have people sectioning things out and like quartering it out or whatever, and then the right-of-way is impossible.
Seems like we need more information to deal with this.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
But
Yeah, that's on you
But
guys.
we're interested in dealing with it.
Yes, but we're
Oh,
totally
yeah.
interested in dealing with it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important question. If we're trying to densify the village center, then we
Yep.
have to use creative planning to do it. Maximum building footprint.
Okay.
All right, on to the next issue.
All right,
You
so.
want us to read it out loud, Josh?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Many
Yeah, no,
zoning
no.
districts establish a maximum.
Yeah, I've got it right
Okay,
here.
all right.
Thank you.
So kind of what they're getting at here is they feel like with our max square feet, it's really limiting it to one building per lot. Which to them is effectively disallowing builders from, which one are we on?
We're on the next one, maximum building footprint.
Say that for-
Sorry, go ahead.
This is a quote directly from the, effectively disallowing builders that require 2 or more adjoining lots or even one larger building on a large single lot. So they think that, having this max square footage is really disallowing that from happening.
Can you explain that again?
Yeah, why would
So
that-
like the whole, with the max square footage that we have in our regulations now, the way they perceive it is that it's only, a developer can only build one building on the lot because of that max.
What is the max 12?
Again, it's by zone, but I think the example here they give in the NC and it's 12,000 square feet in there, they think that's not enough.
I think that was, that decision, wasn't that related to stormwater management and making sure there were impervious spaces around dense, more dense?
Because we're still talking about residential, right?
Well,
They break it down by
This
different
is for
neighborhoods, so they give a couple of different types of examples.
That's true. Well, mixed use is in there.
That's true, but it would impact more than just housing, changing the whole
But
zone.
Wow, they call this fairly crude.
So if you think about like max square footage, that includes the whole building, so even with height, so think about, if you had 12,000 square feet, you could have, even on a small lot, multiple buildings, but, depending on the height, it could be more than 12,000 square feet. Like, I think when they start to get into like the dwelling units, in comparison to the building footprint, square feet. Yeah.
So if we wanted to fix this, what would they suggest that we do?
Well, that's the thing, all they're saying, I mean, to me, it's like there are not a lot of even recommendations or just comments on our zoning code, so I know that's something that we've been trying to grasp as staff, and that's, that's one reason why we have these conversations, is so we can hopefully get somewhere. But I mean, from at least looking at this, it's, changing just the allowable building footprint. We could get rid of maximums if we wanted to, but you gotta think about the other long-term consequences, potential consequences that could occur.
Which are?
You don't want people building these,
Neighborhood.
Stormwater.
Yeah, stormwater.
But I guess
They're
they're,
bringing up something.
well, I guess stormwater, yeah,
Well,
stormwater. Height, we can still
parking.
Parking is probably one of the bigger ones. We can control height though still. We can still have height restrictions.
We do have standard height restrictions.
We do, yeah, we do, yeah. Yeah.
So the biggest issue is parking, because we require that you have a parking space for every unit, don't we?
Yep. Well, depending on the facility, if it's like for senior living, for example, it's half a unit, depending on the type of housing. Josh, you have the development, the land use regulations with you?
Yeah.
Why don't you go to the parking chapter? Thank you. Which I think is under the site design and engineering, which is also in the 300.
Yeah, so were they really only looking at the zoning through the frame of housing?
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
so they weren't considering like density in terms of stormwater or wastewater or parking or?
Well, I think they have a comment like under maximum building footprint, they said, they said, the district has been applied to areas with fairly recent commercial development with full municipal utilities which are conveniently located to nearby walkable neighborhoods. So I think they were looking at areas that already have pretty good wastewater and sewer connections.
Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like you'd have to take each one of these and then run a few scenarios, right? And try to like ground truth it. So like you take neighborhood center, we allow 18 dwelling units per acre that limit the building footprint to 12,000 square feet. Well, regardless of the size of the lot. So if you look at a large lot and you think of a larger building, for one question is that reasonable, 18 dwelling units in a 12,000 square foot building? Are those reasonable size units?
So here, you want me to tell you what CNU says it does?
Yeah.
CNU advocates for changes that make it easier to build great places. We work to identify regulatory barriers, knowledge gaps, financing hurdles, and local inequalities that stand in the way of great urbanism. In response, we engage with governments, partners, professionals, and citizens at every level to make it easier to design and build places where people and businesses can thrive and prosper.
Where are they based out of?
Florida. Here's Andres Duani.
Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the founders, his name is Andres Duani, and he's an architect planner. He developed Seaside, Florida. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's a master plan community. Have you seen The Truman Show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's where it takes place, in Seaside, Florida.
Yeah.
That's a planned community, which has taken in the new urbanism principles.
Yeah.
Which do they build to build
Well,
What'd you say?
Do they fill it? Look, Seagrove Village.
it's a good story to look. I looked at the YouTube video of it, and it's very interesting.
Wetlands there.
But it's
Sorry, gotta be snug about the water.
I mean, it does, at the beginning, it says, great walkable urban places, buildings, blocks, and neighborhoods in small towns or big cities are powerful economic and social engines, improving community health and resilience while promoting sustainability and equity. Now, just as an aside, these are sort of neoliberal concepts that actually don't really work.
Is that?
All they do is make the rich richer.
Yeah.
And
All right. I got my.
sorry.
We are a painful collection. And Commissioner knowledge, aren't we?
I'm sharing that sentiment though, because I'm like, who is seeing you and like, what do they know about this area? But I'm also like excited for easing zoning ordinances, especially
Right.
because development in this area is obviously extremely difficult,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to
Right.
housing. So we have
Right.
to find a happy medium and be creative.
We do, yeah,
Yeah.
we do. I mean,
So-
the key is to make sure that whatever we do,
Yeah,
we reinforce equity, and we make sure that we don't destabilize public services.
yep. And that's the long-term negative outcome, potential.
Right, I mean,
negative outcome.
if you've only got a small pot of money, and you decide to direct it towards amenities,
Mm.
as opposed to, or, I don't know, helping somebody make a big building that's gonna earn them a lot of money, as opposed to offering services. That's a negative.
So I guess one question, which this is making me wonder about, is that, is our parking, did we make choices in the zoning based on this assumption that everybody needs a car?
Good
And is
point.
that what has resulted in like what we have?
I wasn't around for that, but I'm assuming we probably did.
Because there are definitely like considerations for the number of parking spaces per. And I remember like all of this is, I don't have this brain, all of this is somewhat confusing to me, but I remember thinking like, well, couldn't you just have a big building like close to downtown with no parking spaces?
We
Because
did get
they,
feedback at the residential neighborhoods. I recall, I don't remember how frequently we got it, we did get feedback about when we have more units in residential neighborhood, that meant that there was not enough parking for everybody on some of the side streets.
Well, you can get parking exemptions, like Snowblock has no parking requirements because it's in the downtown district.
Okay.
But also we talked a while back about drawing a line around the town, designating what's walkable from downtown.
Yeah.
And easing parking requirements for buildings and apartments
Right.
in
in that area, yeah.
Within walking distance of downtown.
I don't remember, it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, one thing to consider with, getting rid of parking is that you want to be areas which are easily walkable to employment, shopping,
Affordable
healthcare,
shopping.
yes.
Right, and
And
affordable
the
shopping
equity
is
has to
still
be at the
down
center of
Putney
the
Road.
conversation. But also, I mean, obviously, we do have it in this area, and it's good public transit. That's another aspect.
Yeah.
To get people around, they still gotta get around, right? And this is New England, and we have some harsh winters.
Right. Yeah, before we give the parking away, we need to have more reliable public transportation. Do we want to move on to restrictions on number of buildings per lot? Or do we want to simply say, this is all very interesting, can we go at a case-by-case basis? We can refer back to these when we're looking at our specific zoning.
Yeah, I think, I would love to review the things that we've got in draft form and compare them to these recommendations, and then maybe put something together
Okay, cool.
to bring to the select board this year.
Right, I mean, we were supposed to do zoning in our last meeting, and there's a reason we're not doing it in this meeting, and I can't remember what it is. But anyway, there was a reason. And it was a good one. So we can presumably do zoning again. We should be doing it again in our next meeting. And it is all, the stuff is all in Google Drive, so we can review it, so we're good to go next time.
Just to finish up that last section, I think it's interesting that they bring up, can you scroll up a little bit, that they have, you referenced it, Felicity, and they use that word crude about our zoning.
Yeah.
About how we have redundancy, abstract redundancy, sort of, with the bulk of buildings is regulated, the floor area to lot area is regulated, the percentage coverage is regulated, and they feel like some of those can be dropped off. I think so. It's interesting to think about sometimes because we bring this up with other things like, oh, should we just unrestrict that? And then other people chime in saying, well, we have that covered with the stormwater regs, and we have that covered with the buffer regs, and we have that covered with the landscaping regs. So they're kind of echoing something that I've felt sometimes when I hear all that, which is we do have too many fingers pointing at the same thing.
Yeah.
Some
They just
cases.
have a fun choice of words.
Too
And
many
this,
fingers pointing.
No, they do.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
funny too.
this
Is that a
raises
phrase? I just came up with that.
another question about, we said that we wanted to regularly, maybe like every year, meet with the DRB to see how
Yeah.
things were going with them.
Time flies when you're having fun,
Yeah,
right?
so it's getting to be around time when we should do that again.
Yeah.
Because I think their experience of having to deal with these regulations would really help us with them.
Well, Sue brought us that piece of paper with 4 proposals from them, / Brian and/or Brian. So that was kind of that, right?
Right.
One way.
Okay, we good on that? To be continued, I guess?
Yeah.
I think it's exciting that we're considering this. I definitely think it's like kind of unknown, like the outcome and who these people are. Like I'm worried about like, have you guys ever been to King of Prussia in Pennsylvania? You've been there? Yeah, it's like hell. I feel like these people probably did like the zoning around it. It was just like a strip mall, you know, and like it feels very unregulated. You know, and like I'm all for easing and relaxing regulations, but I'm also all about like maintaining and keeping like the wholesome quality that is Brattleboro, you know,
Yeah.
like its uniqueness and individualness, you know, and I feel like it's like, okay, if these guys are Truman Show-esque, you know, like how seriously should we be taking it? So.
Well, I think they offered, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, is that they offered to do this sort of just as a benefit, to sort of say,
Yeah.
here, we'll take a look at your regs
Yes.
and tell us what you think.
And out of,
Conversation.
yeah, and
Yeah.
out of the communities that were looked at, we were by far the largest in terms of planning. We had probably some of the best planning practices already in place.
That's nice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so that's what, I'm not sure the other communities were like,
You said
Colchester.
You said around Vermont, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some north, and we were the only ones in southern Vermont looked at.
Okay, so, on to G?
Oh, can I just,
Yeah,
one thing
sure.
before we move on? I'm just curious if, you know, the need for housing density and walkability is something that, as we make recommendations to the select board, if we get to that point, and want to make some tweaks to the zoning, should we be making a more concerted effort to hear from the community on that?
About, yeah, you mean about walkability?
About both walkability and kind of density in the housing. I know we had talked about a few months ago extending the zoning that allowed for the Red Clover Commons up on Canal Street and extending that into that neighborhood area so that there could be more apartment building type zoning in that area. And we sort of talked around it, and then, I mean, we decided as a group that we didn't want to do that, but yeah, I don't know, it just seems like it might be really helpful to hear a wider perspective on.
Well, if we do make any recommendations to the select board, we have to get public comment.
Yeah, public hearings.
So we get public comments, and then we send it to the select board, and they get public comments.
Yep.
So there are 2 opportunities. So, I mean, I think as soon as we've got that parcel of stuff, we should make people aware that that's what we're talking about, and invite them to come.
I definitely don't think we should do this without people being aware.
Yeah. And it would, I mean,
We haven't.
walkability would be good, because one person's walkability is another person's inaccessibility. So it seems like we ought to really understand how we measure walkability. Public outreach efforts?
Oh, we're just passing by the other recommendations?
Well,
I think the-
Because it's,
Or do we want to go through each one? It seems like we need to be looking at them within the context of our actual regulations.
Yeah, I think that was the
It seems-
process recommendation you made that I liked was at the next meeting, I think we were going to look at the recommendations that we had been
Alongside.
thinking about making
Oh, I see.
alongside
Great.
the CNU, suggestions, and then thinking about those in the same context at the same meeting.
So maybe the staff can kind of draft these
So,
into.
we didn't
some-
get to
Is
the.
that too much to do?
Well, Sue's already working on some draft code with the flexibility of unanticipated development proposals with the PUD process. So she's changing that right now. And then I was gonna work on the lot sizes.
Okay.
So we will get something for you.
Mhm.
So it's already in the works. So are you okay moving on then, Tom?
Just
Oh,
that,
yeah.
the one about the restrictions on number of buildings per lot, that kind of, I agree with that.
Okay.
But kind of for rural reasons, actually, which maybe I shouldn't mention. But,
I'm curious to know now.
What do you really
yeah,
Say-
well,
say more.
because I, a few friends and I wanted to, we're in the prospect of kind of looking at this piece of land to buy, and it has this old house on it, but it's still usable, we're not gonna demo it, but we're excited about building too, like one more house. And then so the prospect of if we subdivide, that's like a process, and it adds to the total assessment, and it's another buildable lot and all that, more complication, there's two owners, potentially now. But the land use regs currently say that you either have to subdivide or you have to go through the whole PUD process. And it's like a PUD just for a two-house property? That seems to make it a conservation subdivision with like easing some of the land to a land trust just for a two-house property on 50 acres. So it seemed like.
Well, you can do a conservation easement, it's a conservation subdivision.
Yeah, but you read, I mean, I don't have any experience with the PUD and going through it, but it seems like that's something for like a neighborhood sort of development. Or
Well,
like
we have like specific subdivisions for
Mhm.
rural areas.
Yeah, the conservation.
The conservation subdivision, yeah.
Right. I don't know, it seemed, looking at it, it felt a little daunting
Okay.
maybe for a
Okay.
two-house proposed,
Mhm.
property. So when and they give an example of how maybe there are legitimate cases where more than one building might be placed on a single lot, for instance, two single-family homes on an oversized lot. 'Cause they're talking about in the urban area, but I'm talking about in the rural. So,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I like that.
Yeah, that also makes me wonder about tiny houses, like what situation where you could like add a tiny
Yeah, you have
house.
to
We have-
subdivide the property.
We
for
have
each
regs that,
individual one.
I remember that, we have regs that enable a person to
The
build
accessory
tiny
dwelling
houses.
unit.
Yeah.
Oh, right. A
ADUs,
single
we do allow
one.
ADUs, single ADUs. They're totally, they're outright permitted, so it's pretty easy to get one.
For one.
For one, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
But I think we also have it so you can do a community.
Well, cottage style,
Yeah.
PUD.
Yeah, so
process.
then you need
Yeah.
the
PUD,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So, like I said, Sue's drafting that, and we probably should wait for her to give a full discussion on that.
Okay.
So are you anxious to see that again? Should we push to try to make that happen in the February meeting?
March, did it?
Do it in March?
There's nothing to do.
Oh, okay.
February meeting, I really want it.
All right, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. I mean, it's good to know that, because then we can plan it for March and make sure it happens. Okay, public outreach efforts. Are you reporting on those?
Yes,
or- okay.
so 250 Bird Street. So just giving you an FYI, I don't have a lot of familiarity with some of these things because I wasn't here. But Kathy, I know that you helped with some of the 250 Bird Street property, correct?
I did?
Or you?
Wait,
Is that the one on the Whetstone, or?
Yeah,
Yes,
so the
well,
one
it
on the
is.
west.
The one,
oh, the 12 acres,
Yep,
there's also a property?
but
Yeah.
basically, we need to figure out what the final use of the site, what does the public want it to be? So we're going to be conducting a few neighborhood meetings to hear from the public what they'd like to see the site be. And some of the ideas brought up so far are passive recreation and wetland nursery.
Ooh.
What about that too? By the public.
Wetland nursery?
Yeah, and also conversations with the Conservation Commission, and that which leads me that they are also very eager to work on this project. So they're wondering if they could be kind of, partners,
status
or
of
they
that?
even, oh, sorry, go on.
No, I don't want to interrupt you.
They are also wondering if you could push this to them and they could be the lead. But they're very excited on this project.
So.
Who was against our?
The Gully,
Conservation
very excited.
Commission.
Okay.
But, so in any way, they could either work jointly, CC becomes a lead, or they would all just report to us, to this commission, or any other ideas. But they, I wanted to make sure that I brought it up.
So tell us what it is, I mean, what, if we were to, if they would be the lead, what would they be leading on?
Just the public outreach process and the
Okay.
planning process for the site, for the remainder of processes that need to be done.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't do that? If they're excited about it, if
Yeah.
somebody's excited about it,
I'm
why
a
would
little excited.
why would we? It's good.
Does,
I love-
their leadership preclude uses other than conservation-related uses?
Good question.
Well, can you rephrase that another way?
If they're leading it, does that mean they're gonna focus on conservation-based uses rather than
Well,
any other public recreation or other?
Well, in the
uses?
end, it's the will of the public who should have to say what it's gonna be, so I would maybe know them. But, I mean, we gotta remember that they are gonna see in a conservation lens.
Yeah.
But
But they're doing the public outreach.
they're doing the public outreach, they would be just
Yeah.
being involved in that aspect, but again, one of the other ideas is that they could still, or staff could report to you on what's going on. You would still be involved.
Do you know what the status of that site is? So it was the River Conservancy.
They still own it.
They had taken ownership of it.
Yeah, and the
There was some
goal is to have,
contamination that needed
yeah,
to be
exactly, we
taken
had some
off.
EPA grant money that
Yeah.
helped fund the whole planning process, and that there is a goal that the town will become the owner of the property,
Right,
so we can
after
do some
that
sort of.
cleanup process
Exactly.
happens.
Yep.
Which I think, the last time I talked to Steve Libby, I think may happen this coming field season, this summer.
Mm.
That's faster than I thought.
I think everything's in place. One question is, I'm pretty sure, maybe I should make that assumption, when it transfers ownership from Vermont River Conservancy to the town, it probably comes with some easements on it.
Yes.
Which likely, I'm guessing, include some, river corridor, floodplain, and recreational access.
That's going to that's got to be worked out.
Yeah, so, but I think that if we're going forward with a public outreach process, there's two pieces of this, right? There's the kind of legal transition of the land from one owner to another. So if that has to be worked out, it should be clear what those are before we begin this public outreach process, so that we can be clear, like the land must allow recreational access, the land will be owned by the town, the land must be able to flood, and given those constraints, what would you like to see happen there?
I think there was a lot of talk about the flood effect of that property because of Irene,
Yeah,
and having
That's
that.
the whole point.
Having that be on the table so that the public knows that that's part of it too. I think is-
So it can't be built on? Is there a thing that says it can't be built on?
I don't know that it's that.
We had,
How
we
much
had
of this
gotten
property
some
is it?
site
The whole thing.
plans.
It's the whole thing?
it's like, it's
Well, if it's in the floodway, you can't build anything.
it's this whole thing.
Oh, wow. And it is all in the floodway?
Oh,
It is the.
Yeah.
It is the
It is.
floodway.
And it's gonna be,
That's where the
I
water
mean,
goes.
one of the original plans that I've seen, it was gonna be tiered to deal with different levels of flooding.
elevate towards the
And
back
to
of the
take
property.
the pressure off
From
downtown,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
by creating extra space for that water to go.
Yeah, and the plan also included some stormwater mitigation for these houses, this area back here.
Uh-huh.
That stormwater would actually be directed onto the property to be infiltrated and,
Public access to a nature conservancy sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah, I mean,
people
but
that-
as long as the public knows that there's not gonna be anything built on it.
right, but you could have, the things could be built on it, they have to be able to be flooded. So for instance, you could put ball fields, you could put walking paths,
But you might not
you
wanna
could
put
choose,
fencing.
right,
That could catch
Right.
debris.
Right.
or, yeah, there could be, like, a nature path with interpretive signs. There could be particular plantings.
Things you don't mind getting washed away when there's
So,
Right.
yeah, so I think I'm all for the Conservation Commission running the public outreach, but I think it is important to clarify the reality parameters of what could actually be done. And
Well, we've had this discussion with
Yeah.
them, because one of their concerns is that, as an understanding, that the public does understand that there is dangers to this location in terms of flooding, and that what happens if this area becomes an encampment area for the homeless.
Right, which is part of, that
Yeah.
has to be part of the
So we
conversation,
have
right? Which means
brought it
like
up, yeah.
sight lines and paths.
Yep.
And
Yep.
lighting possibly, or,
Mhm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion to invite the Conservation Commission to take the lead on this?
Sure, I'll move that we invite and/or / allow, whatever, the Conservation Commission to take the lead on public outreach for that property.
Because who are they collaborating with? Who's the collaboration with? Us?
Well, it'll be with us and
It would
then
be
with
with us
Vermont
and
River
Vermont River
Conservancy.
Conservancy. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
Town
the
in
expectation
general.
would be that they would report what's going on to us, or like tell
To
us how
the-
it all went after the process is over?
You guys, and you
or-
guys
Yeah, I
will
mean,
report to us.
you're staff for both us and
Mhm.
them, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
So just including that in the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I'll second that
I'll
motion.
give a report back.
Great. All those in favor?
I,
Motion
Lots of
passes.
native plants. I'm a native
Thank you.
plant geek.
it'd be cool to like have like a bird watching area, you know?
And just as an aside, we are finding that the number of restoration projects in the state is increasing, and this is, I'm speaking with my river steward hat on, we are actually like, there's not enough plant material. So a couple more nurseries might be a good idea. That's a strange business for the town to get into, but
The nearest native plant nursery I know of is down in Massachusetts.
yeah, there's one up by Burlington too, but like
Yeah.
there's.
Are you talking about sales, like a place where you can buy?
Wow,
things?
how interesting.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
wetland nursery where
The
you
one
There you
plant
go, farmer.
things.
That's what you can farm.
Grow. And then
Swamp
in
like
some
that.
cases, like, you know, you use like willow or red rose or dogwoods, you're not even necessarily like taking the plant up. You can cut stems from it and then that can be used to help on restoration projects. So, I don't know. I have no idea what that is. It seems like really out of the box, but.
So noted. All right. Western Ave Bike Ped Scoping Study.
Yeah, so we received the grant money from the state, V-Trans, for $32,000, and then the Department of Public Works is going to match $8,000, so we have $40,000 to work with. It's going to be a scoping study. So right now, the staff is working on writing an RFP, and we'll hopefully hire a consultant to start working sometime in the next few months.
Did you
And
say?
then- Sorry. The scope, Western Ave encompasses what to what?
Yeah, sure. So it's going to be from the intersection of High and Main to Exit 2.
Intersection.
Not
of
very
it.
far.
High and
for
Main
40,000.
to, so then you know how
High
it
and Main
changes at the green
to
and.
Exit 2.
Yeah.
And this is
Escalator to get up.
$1,000 to do a study.
Yep. It's gonna be,
Another
they're
goddamn study.
gonna make a conceptual plan with
They're gonna make a
alternatives.
conceptual
I
plan.
think Josh knows a
Yes.
guy who could do the whole lane. for
Over 20 grand.
Yeah, maybe.
Get out, do you really?
Just some holiday
No,
night
I'm so
at
sick of
1 a.m.
studies.
Wait, so is that, what are the
have to,
parameters
I
of
know.
the $40,000? Like, what are the limitations? Can any of it be used for implementation, or like, what, is it study, is it
Yeah,
marketing
please.
outreach?
I'll give you
Let's
a whole
give-
rundown
Let's
of what it is.
give 15 for study and the rest to do.
So the outcome of this process will be an identification and prioritization of improvements, a public involvement process to ensure local input in support of projects, an assessment of historic, archaeological, and environmental constraints, clear
That's
written
a
documentation of project issues and overall feasibility, a complete preliminary cost estimate for further engineering, project administration and construction, and then a final report.
Okay, so a couple of those are actually chunky, like
Yeah.
the, like archaeological, like historical
Oh, yeah.
assessment, and then the engineering.
Mhm.
Like, there's squeeze spots to figure out how you would actually engineer.
The road's already
Reverse engineer.
That is archaeology. painting lines on it.
Yeah, do you need it?
I sent that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Think
good
of like,
question,
wait,
yes. the
try
roads are-
to-
I'm not making a new
Why
bike
do we have
lane
to,
like
why do we?
in the
do-
forest.
Why do we have to do
Well,
an
because there's
archaeological
ideas
study?
that there could be some pedestrian improvements, I'm thinking there could be some potentially digging.
Some
Like I
lawns.
said, maybe, I just came in, so I'm not.
Keep using
Yeah,
And what I can do though,
It's
I
here
am
to
taking
here.
these
Yeah,
comments
it's
Right?
and
just a
giving them
tiny,
to-
tiny, tiny piece of real estate there.
Right, and it's really
Which
like,
one, which
and
piece
there's
of real estate are we
no,
talking
It's
about?
going from High Street
Yeah.
to the entrance to exit 2.
Yeah, but what's the constriction?
It's just Western Ave.
Yeah, it's a straight line.
It's a straight line.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a
That's
constriction
paved and have
about
sidewalks on
the
both sides.
archaeology.
And there's
Already.
actually like really, that's probably the easiest place to ride a bike. I ride the
Yeah.
bike all the time.
It
There's like
is.
big side areas.
It's
Yeah,
great.
shoulders.
I
yeah,
think for
and it's flat.
40,000, we
It's
could
straight.
actually just make something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Instead of
function-
planning, we actually.
I'm hearing a little bit more well, I just.
If you give me 40 grand, I will get out there right now.
So I wonder,
I'll buy this one
it's not as if we're gonna take
Is
the
there,
sidewalk out,
is there
right?
any changing to the scope and the parameters of where
Probably
this is?
We have
or
agreements
what it does?
with
You
the
have
state and they're
agreements.
So it's-
signed and.
It's nowhere
it's not Brattleboro
beyond
taxpayer
exit 2,
money, at
and
least
it's
directly.
nowhere.
We can't, make- I don't think we
And I
can
don't
make
think we'd
changes
be
at this point.
reasonably talking about moving anything that's already paved. So really, I think what we're just talking about is if the feasibility of just painting new lines on the
Why do we have to do a study?
pavement, and I don't
I don't
understand.
think it's- I don't think
Why
it's-
do a study?
I don't think it's necessarily painting, like they're talking about potentially other improvements, like an actual bike lane.
Yeah.
Meaning you take the sidewalk
Potentially getting
out.
rid of parking on one side of the street, we're
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and putting
which is
in
what
an
you have
barrier
to do.
between.
Improving the,
Car traffic.
widening the sidewalks, tree planting, I mean, I don't think it's just putting some paint on the road.
No, we need something better than just paint, you know.
So this is how things are done. You spend $40,000 to get somebody to do
This
a
is
plan,
planning,
and
yes.
then you ask for more money to actually do what's been
This,
planned.
yeah.
Do we have a guarantee that we're gonna get the money to do when they finish the
The
plan?
money is just for the study. That's the
Who
only
gives
thing.
us the money for the actual
To
doing?
execute the study.
Well, a plan would hopefully address those needs.
And you
And
don't
some
have
sort of
public
implementation,
comment.
because that would be getting money from other sources for actually implementing.
And what, just out of curiosity, what's the cost of actually doing making a pedestrian,
One
I can
Right.
eyeball it, but millions.
Yeah. If there's like, if there's bump outs, if they have to do like pavement.
You don't understand
Removal
these
or
projects.
whatever, yeah,
It's
Millions.
Millions.
yeah. Well, because like,
How feasible is it that we're gonna get $1 million grant to make a bike thing over a 2-mile space from High Street to exit 2?
I can't say, unfortunately.
Andrew, this is like the this is the roughest planning commission.
Yeah, no,
meeting
like,
Consider this your
I'm not actually
hazing.
asking you these questions, I'm just, they're
I know,
rhetorical
I know,
questions.
I know.
Because it just
And I
seems
wish I
like-
had the answers.
Like, we're doing this, we're spending $40,000 to make a plan for something that we know we're never gonna get the money to actually do. That just
Yeah.
seems a little silly.
especially when we can take that 40,000 and put it into it. You know, like obviously we can't, the money stipulations.
Yeah.
but
If we
use
put the
that.
money into some
Yeah.
kind of account now, in 5
Yeah.
years, it might be $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Put in a credit union or
Well, it
something.
is, but if you got rid of parking on one side, like right now you can park on either side of the street for much of this. If you got rid of parking on one side of the street, you would free up like 4 or 5 feet. And so then there's a question. I mean, I don't think, you can't take any of the sidewalk, right?
No, I don't.
Like, you can take the sidewalk because the town owns that, but past the sidewalk, you're talking about people's property.
So-
And that's not happening, right? So,
So is this, because in years past, we've done a lot of studies, like especially when it comes to the roadworks around Brattleboro, Putney Road, Western Ave. Have we done this study already?
No, not that I've known, not the documents
Not
that I've
for this
seen.
stretch.
Yeah. Because we did in West Brattleboro.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yep.
past routes, or exit 2 beyond.
we have for bike lanes?
There is a bike lane there, you know, so I'm assuming we've done the study to figure out how to put the bike lane in.
Or did we just put that bike lane?
I think they'll
Did
probably.
Steve just get out there and paint that damn
Yeah,
bike lane?
exactly.
Like Steve.
All right, good, so congratulations, we got the money, we're going forward, that's
And
great.
I guess really the gist is that there'll be outreach for that,
Okay.
just like any other plan.
Does the planning commission gonna have to participate in any way in that?
Yes.
In some form, you will be involved.
I'm gonna be on my bike. I'm doing outreach on my bike.
Okay, all right, good. So
We'll do like
so
some
we will
bike
be involved,
outreach.
all right.
Tell
So
them they
we
need to
are
be
you
there
gonna-
for the tulip trot, the 5K that runs right through that section of road.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Tulip trot?
Tulip trot.
So do we need to review the RFP, or are we gonna, it's okay for us not to see it?
Yeah, we'll be developing it. I mean,
Do
do you
we all
want to
wanna see
see
it?
it? Do you want to be involved? I mean, that's staff usually.
I think
doing
we,
thing.
right, but we review
I know in the
the
past we
RFP
reviewed.
for the plan, for
Yeah.
the downtown master plan.
Well, we've reviewed, I think, all our.
I think like 2 of us were on that RFP review.
Sometimes we're all-
And I think one, the main, it says 2 exit 2. The really tricky bit with the bike is actually around the exit 2
It's
interchange.
scary.
So if the RFP can reflect on putting a little, I mean, I don't know how you do that, but some real effort there to figure out how you get across that. Right now, if I'm with the kiddo, we cross the street, we come up, we cross back, it's like, for me, I just drive with the traffic through there, and then the other question, and this is kind of an aside question, is, when you get into West Brattleboro, the main, like, there's some bike lane, but the main constriction, I mean, and that's
It's that bridge.
Bridge.
There's nothing gonna
cursing.
happen.
Right, no, the V-Trans is supposed to be looking at that bridge right now. So,
Really?
yeah, I believe so.
The last time I
You know what I'm
asked
talking
Sue
about.
about it, Sue said that bridge
Over the
was
Whetstone.
Mhm.
for a long, long time before that bridge was gonna get redone.
I haven't heard anything.
I don't know.
A long
I
time.
just saw them out there
Oh, they're probably
at the.
You know, I'm pretty, Public Works is probably involved with that, and I could reach out to Steve or Dan
Um,
and see if they have any
Well,
information.
so yeah, maybe just if there's any segue or interstitial space between that bridge over the Whetstone and whatever they might be doing and this planning money, that might be a good use of the money. I mean, it's all gonna be a good use of money, but you know what I mean? Like, if you get on a bike and you ride up and down Western Avenue, that bridge
That's the
is the
special
spot where you're
area.
gonna be killed.
Okay.
I think. Well, and by the exit 2
the
interchange.
exit 2 and that bridge.
Yeah, but everything else?
But yeah, I mean, that bridge, if you could change that bridge, then you can connect from Chelsea to downtown.
Yeah.
And that would be great. Okay, so bike ped plan?
Say, Kate.
What's that?
Another bike plan. So we were approached by, actually Prudence, one of the groups she's part of, there's a bike club in town. And we were approached by her and Barbara, who owns the bike shop downtown. I forgot her last name. It's very,
Hi guys.
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, thank you.
Barbara Welch.
Thank you.
Yep. And they would like to see an official mobility plan for the town. Another plan, Josh.
Well, that makes sense though, because we
Yeah.
haven't done that
Yeah,
before.
this would be not just, this wouldn't be a region, this wouldn't be the whole town wide. And not just bike, but also pedestrian facilities as well. So
So that goes to walkability too.
so
right?
exactly, so we, mobility, bike ped, who knows what we'll call it, but it'll be done in-house. I.e.,
You.
I'll be doing a lot of it in the next 6 to 9 months. Basically just to do current conditions, needs, bike counts, collecting data. It's gonna take a while to do this in-house, but I wanted to bring it up that we will be engaging in a study.
Could you please talk to moms who push strollers around?
Sure.
Thank
Of
you.
Flag them down.
I mean, there's a moms group, several moms.
Oh,
groups,
there
but
is.
That was like,
Cool.
Because are we also talking about safety with walkability?
Mm-hmm.
Because this town is
That's gonna be an aspect.
incredibly unsafe to walk in, or even more bicycle in. And we need to figure that out. Like, there's some major issues going on right now, and it's disgusting. And hopefully in this, there's this plan, there's something to be said about safety and how to keep people safe, how to keep pedestrians safe. So,
Oh, yeah, a series of things just happened last weekend.
people are getting run over left and right.
Yeah.
People in crosswalks.
Wasn't there one day too, about a couple months ago, that like there's like 4 hit and runs or something?
Yeah, I think this year there's already been 5. I think the cop said this year there's already been 5 pedestrians hit. Not this year, no, what was it? Last year.
2019, the end of
Yeah,
2019.
there was-
Because there's only 6 days this year.
Wow.
So 2019.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more than that though. It was
I feel like
5.
there were a couple of years ago, there were 3 fatalities.
Yeah. Well, I think that's over a few years. I think it just
Yeah.
felt really close together.
That will definitely be addressed. One thing that I'm specifically gonna look at for biking is like levels of stress, it's called, so areas, roads. I'm gonna go and do some inventory of the highest level of stress you experience on a road in Brattleboro to the least.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that assessment. And I can also.
How do you do that? Like, you get on your bike and you like,
You
your heart rate monitors?
That's one way of doing it.
You find the intersections renamed malfunction junction. And like that.
It's really actually
That's the
observations
spot.
and talking with people. So that's going to be me like spending time in one location for hours on end, just observing and talking to people who are either biking or walking those areas.
Yeah.
I can tell you my stress area. There's a crosswalk right in front of where the Vermont Country Deli is that goes up to Orchard Street, and like that is, there's that shot of Western Avenue. People just don't ever even, as you get closer to downtown, I think there's like a psychological anticipation of more pedestrians. But like when you get out onto Western Avenue, people are just cruising through, and I have no idea. And especially with where the farmer's market is, like, it would be interesting to look at, I don't know how you would do this, but changes in trends in terms of bicycle use and walking in town. Because I bet you that has increased over the past 10 years a lot, even 5 years,
I feel like there's a lot of people want to bicycle and walk around this town, but they feel unsafe doing it.
Yeah.
And if we encourage drivers to drive safely somehow, we can, all of a sudden these plans, these bicycle lane plans could actually come into fruition because there's going to be the interest is there, just nobody's willing to do it because of how dangerous it is out there right now.
It's fairly easy to get those temporary speed bumps, right? I mean, that's something that you can just lay down.
Speed humps all
somewhere.
over town.
All
Yeah.
over everywhere.
Put them right around that area, because I have stopped for pedestrians there and watched the oncoming traffic just keep on flying by.
Yeah.
Which is even more dangerous than nobody stopping, because once you stop, then the person who starts to go, and then they're in the middle of traffic.
Yeah, right, so it's like lights.
Yeah, I mean, but those things that they just drop down in neighborhoods all over the place, I think those would be great.
But there's got to be something more permanent, like a more permanent solution than just like throwing
Right.
down speed bumps. Like obviously that would help a lot, but like
Right.
it's like what can we do to, it's almost like you're talking about like what did you call it, an assessment of,
Level of stress.
yeah, exactly, like.
We could park like fake cop cars. Put their lights on, sorry to interrupt. It was a good idea.
What I'm,
Well, how about those flashing lighty
Pass
things?
out blue lights for all bicyclists.
Yeah.
So people freak out.
the issue, like I feel like it's more of like a mental problem right now. It's like people in their cars feel like they own the road. And that's really unfortunate because they don't. Like everyone, we need to share the road with everybody. Like there's obviously a rotten apple in every bunch. There's bicyclists that don't stop for stop signs or stoplights. And there's cars that don't stop for pedestrians in the road. We need people to calm down and chill out and like let people live and stop running people over. And so like how do we do that? Like I don't think temporary speed bumps are the
No, but
solution.
we can do it, I mean,
But
depending
permanent
upon your
speed
thing.
bumps,
Permanent
it's like
speed
where
bumps
you're like,
and
you're
a
entering
relationship
town now, calm down.
There's all these state highways though, which I bet there's even restrictions on things like that.
Well, the West Brattleboro Association has
10.
asked somebody, I don't know if it was the planning commission, but somewhere, we petitioned the state to reduce the speed limit on not Putney Road, on Western Ave, on Route 9, through West Brattleboro, to 35. So at least,
But it's not.
yeah, it's not. So at least that would help. I mean, the idea is that people have to go slower, the speed limit is slower.
But there's also the psychological things, like there's painting of the streets that cause
Right.
people to slow down, and there's different.
Except for bodies don't. Like human bodies
What?
don't cause people to slow down.
No.
Have you guys seen the video that just went around of the guy getting hit by? No, it's this horrible video of the guy right at the co-op crossing the street at a crosswalk. He waited for one car and he went and walked. He's walking across the street and a car came flying up through Malfunction Junction and just hit him. He flew over the hood. And you guys haven't seen this video?
No!
Yeah, no, it's like it was on like MSNBC and everything. Like it made
Yeah.
like big news. Yeah.
Right here in town.
Yeah, right at the co-op. Yeah, and he was like a young guy, like he's
Yeah,
probably
this
like
tells me
28 or
he's
30 or something. I don't know.
Is he okay?
He was like, he walked away somehow, you know, and it's like that's happening more and more often, and the guy did absolutely nothing wrong. And then when you read the comments, which unfortunately I hate reading comments.
But you're
But, like,
compelled to do it.
Yeah, well, because it's like I'm curious to see what people's, you know, like what public perception is, and the public perception is that the car driver was in the right, didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, no, they did everything wrong. You know, they ran that guy over in the crosswalk. You know, so like I don't know if there's any like recourse for the car driver. Like, if we
Was
can,
the
like-
light green?
There's no light, it's at a crosswalk. Right by South Main, where South Main goes up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Main Street's that crosswalk right going where it's like the-
He was in a crosswalk, so you
He's
can't run
like-
over
he's
somebody
pedestrian-
else's crosswalk.
Pedestrian
You're
first.
supposed to
That's
run
why-
and
Without
pull over
lights,
regardless.
pedestrians in the right, not
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but I think
But
we
when
would
you
wait at the
Somebody's
light and they're like,
But when you
and
read
then
the
they
Cars
kind
go
of.
fast there.
Car drivers make excuses the entire time, and it's like there's no excuse. You know, this guy did everything right. You know, he got run over by a car. You know, and it's like that's what needs to fundamentally change. Hopefully, I don't know how or what that is. You know, but like people are being run over.
So what I'm getting at is that this plan should really address the overall safety of bike and pedestrian, and bicyclists and pedestrians.
Absolutely.
That should be one of the, do you want that to be kind of like,
I'd like to hear what Barbara has to say.
Okay.
You know, like I wonder
Well-
if Barbara's concern is safety or if she's just excited to get them in place.
well, the next step is to meet with this group. You know, we're gonna have some conversations.
I would
and-
suggest also that maybe if there's money from the state to do more work about public outreach to alert people to safe driving habits,
Well, like it's almost to the
that would be
point,
useful.
like of how bad the drivers people are. Like I feel like people aren't like taking driver safety courses anymore. Like how do people get licenses? You know, like how are people like driving so erratically?
I think, you know, once you get in the car, you're in I'm reflecting on my own driving,
mindset
which could be
changes.
really bad driving depending, right? I think you actually need the visual psychological tricks on the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Speed
Right.
bumps and lights and
And
things
those
to
flashy
like
things,
cause you to.
by the elementary
different.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I see it.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah.
The thing though is when you have that person that just got out of work and they're frustrated and they just want to get home and they're flying
Yeah.
down the road in their huge truck and they're barreling through those speed bumps like they're nothing, you know, there's a bicyclist right there and they're not looking at the bicyclist, you know, that person's gonna get run over. So like one of my fears, like we need bike lanes, we need to, the infrastructure for pedestrians, especially walking around town, has got to improve and needs to grow. But I'm worried that like as we improve bike lanes and like as these improvements happen, more and more people are gonna be getting hurt, not at their fault, you know, at the fault of the automobile operator. You know, so that's one of my,
I think that that's a question for us to take up to our legislature, though. I mean, I think if a car flies through a crosswalk and hits a pedestrian, then
Yeah.
that person needs to go to jail.
yeah, exactly, that's where I'm at. But what if that person can't afford to have a lawyer to put that person in jail? You know, like what if the victim can't?
Right, but then that's why I'm saying, take it to the
Yeah.
legislature, that it has to be something that operates at a legal level, where there's a law that's broken, and then there are consequences for breaking the law. At this
Yeah.
point, people can get away with whatever they're getting away with.
Exactly, yeah.
But
Like the
the
side-
only way to stop that is to stop people from getting, because if you know, like, you know you're gonna get arrested, you're gonna pay a fine, or something's gonna happen to you if you fly through a crosswalk and hit a human being.
Yeah, there needs.
Chances are you're not gonna do it.
Exactly, there needs to be some sort of accountability, and I feel like that's where we're really lacking, and obviously that's not a Brattleboro issue to tackle, but it's something we should be talking about, and something like,
There's also this, a great group called Safe Routes to School, which is, I think it might be a national program, but it's really big in the state of Vermont, particularly in rural communities and in our community. And it's an advocacy group, and it's a group that works to change policy around walking and biking to schools. And it also does programming. I mean, I see their logo in our school newspaper all the time. So it's another great resource that can provide ideas on how we can tackle not just infrastructure change, but policy change.
Okay, are we good?
I feel a lot better now.
Okay, great. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
I'll
Is there
second.
a second? All those in favor?
I-
The meeting is adjourned at 17:39 PM.